Hi, folks. Welcome to the Anarchist Wine Co. in Napa Valley, California. My name is Steve Ryan. I'm the GM of our winery. The winery is actually called the Wine Foundry, and we have two brands, Anarchist Wine Co. and Foundry Wines, that we feature during these bi-monthly fun tasting and pairing sort of demos that we're doing. And this one is a very special one for us, actually, because Patrick, who's our director of winemaking, he and I were supposed to be in Houston right now doing a dinner at a fantastic, one of the hottest new spots in Houston, a new restaurant called Mutiny Wine Room in Houston Heights, owned and operated by some good friends of ours, Mark and Emily, and their chef is here with us this evening. We're going to do a cooking demo, and so we've titled it "How to Stage a Mutiny." We've paired 3 wines with 3 separate dishes. The recipes all went out to everybody that had registered for this event as of yesterday, and if not, we'll send them out again one more time when we do the follow-up on this, so that you can cook along. And it was very nice of Chef and Mutiny to share those recipes with us. We're gonna kind of try something different here that we've never done. We've got, you see on your screen, if you're in the gallery view, you'll be able to see everything that's going on. I suggest you get into that, which would be on the upper right-hand side of your screen. You'll see either a speaker view or a gallery view. And if gallery view, you are seeing myself, Patrick, currently Chef Eduardo, and Mark Ellenberger, and then a lonely skillet, a nice cast iron skillet, and a butcher block there. So we're gonna kind of show you how everything's done, and we're gonna see how it goes. You know, this is, live cooking production at its hopefully finest, and we'll follow along. I know there's a lot of locals in Houston that Mutiny had reached out to, that they actually were able to purchase meal kits, and so they could cook along with this. So we're going to kind of go through every step of these dishes. And this Inquisitive Sips, for those of you that are new to Anarchist Wine Co. Or to this Wednesday format, it's really a pretension-free environment. Our goal is to put out kind of virtual programming, connect with people, have a little bit of fun, taste some wines, learn something, laugh a bit. We try not to take ourselves too seriously, and we're going to have some fun with it. So without further ado, I'm going to raise a glass here, and I toast all of you out there, as well as my colleagues here, and I'll make some introductions. The gentleman sitting in an office chair holding a glass of wine is Patrick Sabo, our head winemaker, director of winemaking at the Wine Foundry, Anarchist Wine Co. and Foundry Wines. These are all his babies. And then it's down in my lower left-hand corner. I've got Chef Eduardo and Mark Ellenberger from Mutiny Wine Room. And I'll go ahead and introduce Mark. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about Mutiny, and then maybe a little bit about Chef. Cheers, everybody.
Oh, thanks very much, Steve, for the intro. Yeah, this is, we're all doing lots new and innovative things to try and reach out and touch people these days. And these virtual wine tastings are one of our ways, and obviously Foundry's ways of reaching out to our customers and prospective customers. And so this is a great venue, and thanks very much for the opportunity. Mutiny grew out of a desire to find an outlet for small boutique wineries, like ourselves, like Foundry, like Anarchist, like probably many of the people that are on this podcast. Is this? Webinar, sorry. Yeah, there we go. So, you know, we started making wine about 15 years ago with the guys at Foundry, and I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted here. I apologize. Hang on a second. I'm going to go ahead and cut to Emily. Why don't you come over and introduce?
You're going to call in your better half?
Yeah, thank you.
And welcome Emily Trout to the stage, everybody.
Hi. No, as Mark said, Mutiny Wine Room grew out of a desire to bring boutique, small batch, handcrafted wines to Houston, Texas, because in our current situation, we can't get these kinds of wines here. And so we found a way to work with the system such that we can. So at Mutiny Wine Room, you are getting a fantastic wine experience. It's the Napa Valley wine tasting experience in your own backyard if you're in Houston. And to go with all these fabulous wines that all these wonderful winemakers make, we had to find ourselves a fabulous chef to pair with all these great wines. So this is Chef Eduardo Alcayaga, who's been with us since before the opening of Mutiny. Mm-hmm. And tonight he's going to be making 3 dishes to pair with the 3 wines that we've talked about. And so why don't you tell us, Eduardo, what wines you got or what dishes you got, because I've got the wines.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for having us here today. I think the most important thing that we want to accomplish here today is to bring focus to the wonderful relationship between food and wine, and between life and what we can do every day to make our life a little bit more meaningful and a little bit more fun as well during all these difficult times. So if food and wine can bring a little bit more happiness, more power to everybody that can join us in this little campaign for doing this. So thank you for being here tonight. I want to start with this first dish. It's a seafood dish which we're going to feature our local snapper, and snapper, it's a very beautiful fish because first of all, it cooks beautifully in the sense that it retains its moisture very nicely. It's very tender. It's kind of hard to overcook in a way, unless you really, go at it with the heat. But I think in general, it's a very forgiving fish. So I love the flavor. It's mild, it's tender. But this specific dish, I want to talk a little bit about it because it brings back memories. I grew up in Chile, also a wine-loving country, and I grew up specifically in Valparaiso. I know Mark is familiar with the city where I was born because he used to have dealings down there with his ship business. So it brings me memories because I remember there was this one summer when I was really young, and me and some group of friends of mine, we went to the beach, and we actually went to live in the beach we got away from our house and from our houses, and we went to live by ourselves, being little hippies kind of thing. And one of the things we did in the morning, we always went to talk to the fishermen, and whatever extra fish they had, they gave it to us. We were playing music and having fun, being young and free. So one dish I always remember that we always loved to cook. We had this little piece of metal, literally made a fire underneath, and we just put a bunch of vegetables, throw some white wine in it, and we just put the fish on top so the fish just wouldn't burn right away, And then it would get this wonderful moist fish, and we would get a really great result just with a simple open fire. So obviously here in Mutiny, what we do is something much more refined, which today we're gonna go over it. And basically we do a fish en papillote, which basically means wrapped in a large piece of parchment paper that's oven safe. And we keep all the moisture and we keep this wonderful aromatics that we're gonna try. So the inspiration for the aromas of this fish come really a little bit from Thailand. My wife and I love eating Thai food. So we have 3 ingredients that are really lovely. We have lime leaves. You might find in some Asian markets as kaffir lime leaves. We have galangal. It's a rhizome very close to ginger, but with a slightly more mild aroma, and lemongrass, which obviously wonderful lemon nuts. So to that, underneath, we're gonna have 2 vegetables, very, very simple. Asparagus and bell peppers. Think about spring right now. These are wonderful vegetables to use during this time of year. So why don't we get into the actual putting this dish together? It's actually a very forgiving method. As long as you have just the right temperature and the right timing, it basically cooks in its own steam and in its own juices. And we just season it simply with salt, pepper, and olive oil. Emily today brought us this beautiful olive oil. Where do you bring this olive oil from, Emily?
That is Italian olive oil?
Italian olive oil, right?
Yes.
So nudo.
Nudo.
Straight from the grove.
Yes, it's a, yeah, you actually get to adopt an olive tree to get your olive oil from.
There you
It was
go.
a gift. from
See,
mom.
that's awesome.
This section of the film is being sponsored by Nudo. Nudo.
All right. So we're going to get into putting this thing together because I know we're all anxious to do our first dish. So the way I start with this is very simple. I just put a touch of olive oil on the paper. This is obviously for flavor. Always, right? That's our first reason to use any ingredient, flavor. Then we put our bell peppers. We cut them in a julienne or strip manner. And our asparagus, slightly peeled. Then we season with freshly ground black pepper and some salt. That's the first step. Then notice I cut my pepper. I mean, I'm imagining my pepper being in half here, right? So I place my vegetables right in the half, a little bit towards the middle part right here, okay? Then we bring our wonderful snapper. This is about a 8-ounce filet. Beautiful snapper. Touch of salt and pepper as well. The seasoning, you know, always make it work for yourself. Obviously, if you have any dietary restrictions, you can't do as much salt or you don't like as much pepper. Make it your own.
Hey,
That's
Chef,
what it's all about. Yes, sir.
is there, other than snapper, is there another fish that you would suggest with this?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, in
Tilapia.
fact, there's many fish that will work great with this. You can do this with a trout. You can do it with sea bass or black bass when it's in season, of course. I mean, obviously, even salmon. Basically, you want fish that's rather moist, slightly medium to high fat, so it can retain its moisture. Okay, something like probably like a swordfish or something that most firm and sticky. It might be okay for this. You may want to do a quick marinade if you had something like that. You can even do this with shrimp. Okay, why not some octopus that's been previously braised, so to ensure tenderness.
Cool, okay.
So yeah, but basically, really, a lot of things. In fact, if you're a vegetarian and you just wanted to make yourself a cartoccio, like they say in Italy, right, of vegetables, that would be a wonderful thing to do as well.
And also, real quick, just for everybody out there on the online here, I forgot to mention earlier, if you have a question, there's a Q&A function that you can click on the bottom of the screen, and you put that in, and then we'll incorporate your questions in to get Chef to answer them, or Patrick can answer them, or me. And then there's the chat function as well if you want to chime in with anything else. But for questions, we always look at it on the Q&A is the best. So, and you can do it anonymously if you want. Sorry, Chef. Now.
Oh no, absolutely, yes. Please, questions are always welcome. You know, I think just to think of the great Leonardo da Vinci, is a person that questions, right? So it's important to question everything we do. That's how we find the answers to everything. So that's how I've developed myself as a cook, by simply questioning everything. I've read many cookbooks and I work with many people, but my nature of always questioning things is very important, because it helps to find your own answers and your own way to learn how, and the best way works for you. All right, so I'm gonna apply the lemon leaves here, and I would suggest with any kind of leaf, mint as well, you just give it a little like that, and that just kind of helps release the oils that will infuse your fish or whatever you're cooking, no? So then we're gonna add the lemongrass. Very aromatic, very aromatic. And last but not least, it's our 2 slices of galangal. Feel free to use ginger if you don't have galangal. Feel free to use lemon zest if you don't have lemongrass. Okay, so any of these will work. So again, we built our vegetable base or little bed there, and our fish, and now we're gonna close this. And now you can really go both ways. And I just wanna discuss this. Basically, you can do some turns here towards the food. 1, 2, 3. Okay, like that. And then we're gonna do the same thing on the sides, okay? But then the last one, the third one on the sides is gonna go under. So it keeps the steam in, okay? But here's a quick solution. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, here's a little red stapler. You could also do that just as easily, all right? So this is another, yeah, I'm a red stapler. So anyway, okay, so this is another way you can keep things together, right? All right, so let me show you what I do here on the side. I do 1, 2, and the third one, tuck it under, like that.
So the weight of the fish actually kind of keeps that sealed
Exactly.
in. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Exactly that. So towards yourself again, the last side here, 1, 2, and then the third one goes under it. And that's it. Okay?
That's so cool. When you read the name of the dish, snapper en papillote, it sounds intimidating, but that looks so easy.
Yeah, it really is, you know. But again, if you follow the stapler trick, it always works. You don't have to sweat over this. Okay, so now we're gonna go into a preheated 475 oven. That might seem a little aggressive of an oven, but trust me, it's very important because you need that much heat to create steam. And this guy is gonna go in for 13 minutes. My buddy over here, Mr. Ben Newman, is gonna do us the favor to keep track of time for us. All right, so this guy's going right in 30 minutes and then it's done.
So Patrick, while he's doing that, the wine that we paired with this is the Anarchist, which is, for those that don't know, our kind of flagship white wine. Obviously shares the name of our brand. Can you tell us a little bit about what's in your glass there?
Cheers. Well, I'm sorry, I'm salivating so much watching the chef prepare the meal. I just wondering, what's the delivery time to Petaluma, California? Can we get that?
We might be able to talk to the owner of Amazon. Maybe he can. Jeff Bezos might be able to put over afternoon. Delivery time there.
One of my favorite types of eating and of cuisine in general was simple and fresh and vibrant, and I think this wine is a great complement to cuisine of that type, and so meaning that it's also vibrant. There's a lot of this. It's like the name of the wine itself. It's kind of a under traditional understanding of winemaking or wine blending. This is a little bit of non-traditional for sure, an anarchist by most people, by old school standards, and that we're blending varietals from different portions of that would not normally have been blended together. And so grapes vary in vintages, and so each vintage I do something a little bit different, but typically it's 6 different varietals in there. So and this, the wine I'm drinking is about half Gewürztraminer, so about 50% Gewürztraminer, and the majority, and also then about 20% each of Pinot Blanc and Pinot Gris, and and then finish it out with Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, and Viognier for that particular vintage. And so it depends on which vintage I had. It's a little bit different, but again, not something that's normally done, but why not? It's, I think, a great combination of things. Gewürztraminer brings spice and aromatics, and it reminds me of for some reason of fall, but then you bring in Sauvignon Blanc, you bring Pinot Blanc or fruit and ripeness, and Pinot Gris is stone fruit and minerality, and it just, each one, the goal of the wine though is to be light and fresh and fun and vibrant and go well with dishes like this. I think in summertime, today was almost 100 degrees here, and I think it's right now sitting in my garage. I'm going through it fairly quickly, and so the dish looks great. Snapper, I love fresh fish done simply and freshly, and I grew up on the southeast, and so we had snapper, but we also had grouper, or we had triggerfish, or we had flounder, or bass, and things like that.
My takeaway from what you just shared is that you love fresh fish freshly.
fresh mostly. Not the stale kind of fish. More of the freshness is really.
And Chef, we've got a question for you from Jane Nugent. It looks like, and she says she's in the Montrose neighborhood of Houston. What is one ingredient that you cannot live without? I'm hoping you're going to say salt, but I didn't want to jump.
Well, I mean, if I had to recall my days as a musician, right, and you just mentioned salt, I mean, salt is really your volume on flavor. So really, I mean, without salt, we couldn't really do a lot of the things we do. Although you can learn to eat, to learn to appreciate flavors without salt, you know. But honestly speaking, I mean, salt is just absolutely wonderful. You can cure things with it. You can firm up textures. You can, you can brine. You can bring up the flavors, and very, very important. And honestly, there's a little secret ingredient that I use in a lot of my recipes that I wanted to maybe share with you tonight. I have this Chilean spice some of you might not have heard of, but it's called merquén. And merquén is done by the Mapuche tribe of Indians in my country, in the south. And it's basically these goat horn chiles. They're very long, and they smoke them. And they smoke them with coriander seeds. And it has the most wonderful amount of heat. It reminds me a little bit of from France if you tasted some of the peppers from piment d'Espelette, but with a more of a smoky flavor, if you know what I mean.
So it's like your secret weapon.
That's my little secret weapon. Yeah. So
You have to be careful though. Some states, they don't allow you to smoke goat horn chiles, and they don't. You have to check where the state by state.
When we were making initial budgets for the back of the house, or the kitchen, what we call, the amount of butter we use is probably 4 times what I thought. So believe me, they love the butter too.
What about your family's chicken stock?
Oh yeah.
So should we move on to the next dish?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to move on to the next 2 dishes, and I want to go ahead and do both meat dishes pretty much at the same time, because the size of the portions here are very friendly to about a very similar cooking time. So one suggestion I have for the viewers out there, that if you have time at home, this is something that's usually not done most in restaurants, but if you have time at home, take your meat out about 30 minutes before to room temperature. That allows the temperature of the meat to be a little bit more even from the inside and the outside, so the cooking is more even. You can also season, a few minutes ahead. That also helps for tenderness. So right here we have about 4 ounces of our Wagyu strip loin.
What's that going to go on, Chef? Tell us about the dishes.
Oh yeah,
Dish.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And right here it's our rack of lamb. So our first dish was a snapper, and then our second dish is going to be our lamb, which is going to have 2 elements. It's going to have a very aromatic rice that it's a jasmine rice, okay? That I use popped mustard seeds, ginger, carrot, and fennel seeds. So basically, you start with a pot, you pop the seeds on hot oil, then you add your rice, roast it a little bit, then you add all the rest of the ingredients, your ginger, your carrots, little strips, and the fennel. And then I finish with a touch of turmeric, okay? And then we put about basically 2 parts of liquid to 1 part of rice. So if you're cooking at home for just 2 or 3 people, 1 cup of rice, 2 cups of liquid. You can use chicken stock, you can use vegetable stock, or you can just use simply water. Make sure, here's my pro tip on this. When you're cooking rice, if you want to know if your rice is well seasoned, don't rely so much on recipe as rely on testing the broth. In other words, once your rice and all your aromatics are hot, and then you put that broth or that water and you stir that broth should be hot, okay? So create an immediate bubble into your rice. So then taste that broth. You're gonna taste all the, you're gonna be able to tell, is there enough salt there? Is there enough flavor? Is this how I want my, because it's basically the broth that's gonna flavor your rice, okay? So the second element to the lamb, it's, you know, lamb is always been paired with meat, but I'm not partial too much to mint jellies and things like that. So I did something very refreshing, which is gremolata, right? Some of you might like chimichurri with their steak. This is like the chimichurri from Italy, right? so basically it's mint, Italian parsley, chopped, and then lemon zest, a touch of garlic, olive oil, a touch of lemon juice, salt and pepper. Very, very simple. So it's a very refreshing condiment to accompany the lamb and the aromatic rice, okay? And then second, we have, we're gonna do a steak tartine, which a tartine is basically an open face sandwich, right? So if you wish. So basically, this is a slice of our homemade focaccia that we make at the restaurant. We're gonna quickly toast this, and I'm gonna go ahead and move here to the stove. So,
Still not a restaurant.
we move a little bit of oil, and we very lightly toast the bread, okay?
There's that product placement for the olive oil company again too.
Sorry?
Oh, I'm just joking around about the olive oil. There you go, Mark.
Oh, yeah. There's Italian food.
That's got to be at least 25,000, I'd say, easily. Come on.
Actually, it's kind of a fun story. Just a small sidelight, quickly. It's a British couple who were in television production like 20 years ago. They moved to Italy, built a olive oil orchard, and then started adopting out the trees and sending them around the country, all around the world. And so you can adopt an olive oil tree. It's kind of fun.
So it's like a crowdsourcing olive oil thing.
It is, except they did it all on their own. It's a good story, and it's very good olive oil.
All right, guys. So this is a cast iron pan, okay? And this pan I have it on a medium flame. I'm gonna go ahead and move it to the side so you can see the amount of heat. It's generous, but not too high, because here's a little tip. When you sear your meats, especially meats that are tender or that you want them to stay nice and moist inside, you want to sear your meats properly, but you don't want to sear them so much that creates such a heavy crust that it gets all the way halfway into your meat. So by the time it's finished cooking in the middle, the outside is so dry and crusty that it's really not very pleasant to cut, or even to try to cut. So I always recommend to sear lightly, you know, so your meat doesn't become too tough to either cut or something. Okay, so our bread is nicely toasted on one side. We're gonna just warm it up on the other side, because this bread, we're gonna take it out for a second, we're gonna sear our meats, and then we're gonna, at the last second, we're gonna put the bread on the oven one more time just to warm it up again. Okay.
And that's your homemade focaccia. That's the focaccia.
Yes, sir. Yeah. We make several kinds of bread, and our most takes about 3 days to do, because we use a Polish starter, then we use some sourdough on the second day. We mix it all by hand. We let it ferment for another 24 hours. Then on the third day, we finally take it out, let it ferment for a couple more hours, and then we're ready to go for baking. So I really believe in, like we believe in sustainable farming, sustainable fishing, and all that. I think bread making this day needs to go back really to something that it's really more of a craft, where we take our time to make bread, and the bread has time to really express itself. Okay, so
it's really, really good bread. Really good bread.
Yeah, you know, if you know a little bit about Chile, Chileans, we buy bread at least 2 times a day. Yes, so we're a bread country. In fact, before I came to the United States, I never knew what a tortilla or burrito was. I love Mexican food, don't get me wrong, but I had nothing but bread growing up. So okay, so this steak has been already seasoned, but I do want to show you a little bit that I want to. Oh, that's our timer for our fish.
Yes.
Always season from above when you season your meats. Okay, So your seasoning spreads out very, very evenly. Okay, so our oil is nice cooking. We're gonna go ahead and put the lamb as well. Bones up right now to sear, okay? And we're gonna let that, and now you do nothing. Have a Zen moment.
Don't
Relax.
touch it. So
Have a
don't
glass
touch
of
it.
wine. Let the
Take
meat
the snap out of
sear.
the
Don't
oven.
move it, don't touch it, don't talk to it, don't look at it, nothing. Leave it alone. All right, so we're gonna move on to our fish because our timing went off. And we're gonna take it out and try it out with this wonderful Anarchist one. So let me show you something, guys. You see this, guys, like a bubble? You see, that means there's steam in there. That means the fish cooked properly, it cooked nicely. So see how it's going down now, right? So that's very, very important. Yeah,
No, wonderful.
that's the sign that the fish did its job. All right. We'll bring this in.
Ooh, the anticipation.
Actually, no, I'll do it.
It's totally not what I'm having for dinner tonight. This is kind of a bummer, actually, Patrick.
Where is my waiter? I haven't seen him forever. I don't know where the hell he is, but I can't wait. Bitch.
I'm gonna go ahead and turn the steak. I'm gonna check on the lamb. About 2 minutes. Beautiful searing. See, the steak is kind of like little buddy there. It's kind of, hey, man, can you help me out a little bit there? So I can sear just the bottom little, part of that filet right there. And this is a cast iron, guys. If you're using a cast iron, watch out. Watch out for your flame not to be too high. That's why I was recommending just a medium heat. It works great. Okay, in most pans. All right. So you can put the bones on the side of the pan like that as well. Okay. We're gonna sear the sides now very quickly. It's very, very good. That for a second. Okay, Emily, why don't we open this fish
Okay.
and see what's going on inside? I'm really excited. Sure, thank you.
So Emily, you're the lucky one.
Look at the
Like,
steam right there, guys. See the steam?
nice.
Come out? Oh, smell edition, where are you? Where are you, right? Okay. All right, so I'm gonna open this guy here and show you what's happening. So look at that, guys. So everybody did their job, right? Now here comes, so we remove now our lime leaves to the side, our galangal, our lemongrass. They did their job. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
And done.
And now,
So all the aromatics.
so all the aromatics did their job, you see? So now the vegetables are in, okay? All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this meat in the oven, and we're gonna go 5 minutes in the oven to cook to so all this meat right now is like a beautiful rare, which is just what we want. We cook it to rare, we cook it to, and then we take it out of meat rare and let it rest. Yes.
And so, Chef, on the fish, if you're entertaining, would you go ahead and just plate it with the paper right there, and just open it up like you did?
Actually, yeah. A Mutiny, we presented. We present the fish. I'm gonna give me 1 second. I'm gonna go ahead and take this out of the heat, and at this point we put just a touch of butter, okay? Just a little bit.
That's five tablespoons. By the way.
Okay, yeah, that's half a stick of butter. And we sear the meat on this pan, right? And now we're gonna make some nice, beautiful brown butter, and just let it sit there. So when our meat comes out, we're gonna baste while the meat rests. Okay, so while the meat rests, we're gonna baste it with this wonderful brown butter. All right, so yeah, immediately we serve this fish just like this. We want the guests to have a little bit of that element of wonder and surprise, and to smell the aromas coming out of the fish. Emily, why don't you come here and tell us what are you experiencing?
Well,
Why don't you guys move to the other
Yeah,
side?
let's move it over here.
There you go. I got it.
Can you see it, guys?
Here we have a couple of forks.
Okay.
For you, chef. Okay, this is absolutely beautiful, and you do get those Thai sort of
Yeah,
aromas.
absolutely.
Mm.
Hey, I wanted to say something about this wine, because the other night when I try this fish, we cook this way, it becomes very sweet, and we all thought, man, this needs a little salt. But then as soon as we try the wine, it's amazing how the minerality of the wine complements the sweetness of the vegetables and the fish. I really love that. So thank you for this wonderful wine, because it complements the sweetness of seafood incredibly well. I was really taken by it.
Yeah, the nice acid on the back. I made this dish the other night, on Monday night. After we kind of ran through this on Sunday night in the background, and then I made this dish on Monday, following what you taught me on Sunday. And the acid on the wine also really kind of counteracts a little bit of that perceived sweetness on the vegetables. And I didn't find lime leaves, so I substituted the little lemon juice.
Well, this is cooked absolutely perfectly.
It's so moist, it's so moist and sweet. And yeah, it's really, it's a method that works every time. 13 minutes, 475, anything you put in there, any protein, it just works wonderful. So
That's
you
awesome.
can see moisture wonderfully. Yeah, really nice. Really beautiful pairing. Right?
And Patrick, as you said, with this, the freshness of it really just complements everything that's going on in there.
Right.
You get some of the sweetness, you get some of the lime, you definitely get that minerality in there.
Yeah, and at the bottom, all the vegetables have given its moisture, so it almost created its own liqueur, if you wish, of beautiful vegetables and fish. So you smell the citrus, but you don't get that acidity from the elements that we put in here. So that's where the wine comes in, and it really does a wonderful job of complementing.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed, Chef, that you didn't say the secret ingredient was wine. I thought that
Well, actually it is, because it really is the final ingredient before you eat this. So yes, absolutely.
Well, the reason why I said that, because if you have enough wine, you can't really taste much after that, and so then it really doesn't matter what how well your preparation was. And
We've never been in that situation.
So, since we kind of started shifting gears to the steak and the lamb, but
Yes, absolutely.
not the.
Yeah. So how long do
we have a question here?
on the timer?
Let me just
1 minute.
1 minute. So we have 1 minute
So Chris
before our
Hun-
meat comes out and rests.
Oh, go ahead. Okay, so Chris Hunley in Snowmass, Colorado, had a question. What's a mistake that we might make at home when cooking steaks?
We're cooking steaks.
Yeah, aside from
Let's
obviously
start with the
overcooking
seasoning
around.
first, okay? Let's start with the seasoning. Depending on your size of your meat, you always want to mind your seasoning, because meat needs a generous seasoning, both before cooking, and let me say this, after cooking, okay? I always like to use finishing salts. I like to use black pepper mostly afterwards than before, because if you use too much black pepper, especially when you're searing meat, it can really have a burn kind of flavor. So use moderately your black pepper before cooking, and use, I would suggest to use more your fresh black pepper right after it comes out, okay?
that's a good
Okay, so
Resting.
that's it, guys. Now our meats are coming out of the oven. That was 5 minutes.
At what temperature, Chef?
Same temperature as the fish,
475.
475. Okay, 475. We're using, we devised, because of these portion sizes and everything, we devised that 475 was the magic number for all of this. And very important now, we're gonna baste the meats with that wonderful brown butter that we had earlier. Okay, so as they rest.
I'm so hungry right now.
I don't know if you can hear me.
This is a little bit torture. I don't really think I did not sign up for this. I don't know. I don't really.
Totally.
we sent the wine to them. Where's my lamb chops? I mean, come on, it's gorgeous.
Hey, if you recall, you were supposed to be here tonight for our showcase winery before the lockdowns happened. So we tried, Patrick, we tried. But do you want to talk a little bit about this crucible wine and how it would go with this lamb?
Yeah, I would like to. The Crucible is a pretty robust wine, and it really is still, even though it's a 2014 vintage, it's still feels pretty wound together. And so I think probably for me, I always, because interestingly, my wife and my daughters prefer white wine, and so I'm drinking most red wines at home by myself, and so I drink them over a couple of days, and so the Crucible is almost always going to be better day 2 or day 3 than it is day 1, because it still feels like, to me, it's wound together. This is almost all Merlot, and even though this is Broken Rock,
I think it's about 48 Merlot, 48 Malbec.
and 14. I'm sorry, I'm getting the vintages mixed up. I did use quite a bit more Malbec. I forgot that in 14. Thank you, Esteban.
You make a lot of wines. You're welcome, sir.
There was a question actually for the chef, but about Chilean wine. But I'll introduce my 2 cents on it first, in that because I went to Chile, luckily, a few years back, and had some wonderful Chilean Carignans and Syrahs. I was really impressed with Syrahs from all the way, from whether it's from Valparaiso or just slightly inland to northeast of Santiago as well. And there was some quite excellent Syrahs. Everyone talks about, they talk about a number of different varietals there. It's a very long country, of course, and has a number of nice growing spots for these different varieties. But I was really impressed with Chilean Syrah. And so, to my opinion on that was, yes, it would go great with the fish because it was really fresh and vibrant. The Carignans also, even several other varieties down there, Carmenere as well. So I was really impressed with not only the Chilean wines, but the people particularly. I thought were the best part of Chile. We have a wonderful, awesome fellow, Fernando, who is from Santiago, and he's a big reason why the wines that we've made are so great, because he's been.
And Chef, I think that question, if your brother is named Rodrigo, I think he's the one that asked.
Yeah, Rodrigo Alcayaga.
I noticed the last.
I think you're watching Rodrigo, right? Are you better?
Wave to Rodrigo.
Thanks, Rodrigo.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I was going to mention another variety of that. I recently, my mother brought me a bottle of a wonderful Petit Verdot. I was very, very surprised to have a single varietal and being so well balanced. So yeah, I tried beautiful Petit Verdot, and I think, and it wasn't very tanniny. I was
from Chile or from where
Chile,
was it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, you bet. All right, guys. So I just want to mention we got a timer going on. So we seared the meat for 5 minutes. We put it on the oven 475 for 5 minutes, and now we're gonna let it rest for about 5 minutes. 6 or 7 is ideal. All right, and so I think we're how much we have left on the timer?
2.5.
We have basically 2 minutes left for the about 7-minute timer. Very, very important. This is another answering further on the question earlier from the viewer on another tip for cooking meat. Resting is one of the most important elements of meat cookery. If you don't rest your meats well, they don't retain their moisture as well. They're not as tender. It reminds me a lot, again, I love baking. It's just like when you take a bread right out of the oven. It's like a brick. But then you let it relax and the steam comes out and becomes very tender. And then once it cools off, the crust comes back. Same story, okay? So very, very important to let your meats rest. So in the meantime, I wanted to discuss the sides on these dishes while we got the last 2 minutes. So on the lamb, we're going to have the rice, which we already discussed earlier, which, by the way, I wanted to mention, I am going to work on having some videos on how to make this rice from scratch, and also how to make the focaccia from scratch as well. So I'm going to eventually put some of these videos out for some people that might be further interested in learning a few more tricks from involving these dishes. Okay. All right. So on the tartine, so we have the bread that we toasted earlier. So now we're gonna put it back on the oven for like 45 seconds. All right, just to rewarm it and to make it just a little crispy. We toasted earlier, we let it rest for a minute. So now we're just gonna rewarm it again. And then we're gonna have building upwards. We're gonna have our focaccia bread. Then we're gonna put this wonderful onion jam, which we use very much the method of making French onion soup. We let the onions caramelized, and then at the very end, we add a little bit of salt, then a touch of brown sugar, and finish with some country Dijon mustard, just to cut the sweetness and the richness of that, and a touch of butter. Then we have this pistachio pico de gallo with some cucumbers, poblano peppers, jalapeno peppers, mint, cilantro, green onions. And then we finish on the very top with some watercress leaves for a little bit of a little peppery there, little bite at the very end, okay? So, that being said, we're gonna go ahead and start plating our lamb, okay? So, we take this rice, which is nice and hot here. And I would like to talk about what's some of the best ways to, well, once you make rice and you have some rice left over at home, some people like to steam it back in a pot or a pan with a little bit of maybe chicken stock or a touch of butter. But you know, honestly speaking, the microwave here, it really works well. Chef Mike, good for you. Honestly, no, it really retains the texture of the rice and it steams in its own amount of moisture. So honestly, if in a pinch, if you have to, it works fine, okay? But if you want to go the more traditional way, use a little butter, a little stock of your liking, and that's enough. Just not too long, not too much stock, because if not, the rice starts absorbing a lot of the moisture and it becomes very gummy and overcooked. So you want to retain those grains really nice and separate. Okay, so the rice is on our plate right here, and now I'm going to go ahead and cut this lamb. And we're going to see here the beautiful meat rare color. I hope you can see this right now, guys. Okay. So the way we play this is very simply. We're going to plate the lamb like this. Top of the rice. Sorry, I'm OCD. And at this point, I like to bring this. This is the one to pull the big guts. Okay, if you have a really nice finishing salt, go ahead and use it now. I'm using some Maldon salt, nice big crystals, right there. It draws out a little bit of moisture. A touch of freshly ground black pepper, and we finish with our mint gremolata. Like to put a couple of nuts right there, and then the rest on the plate for you to enjoy as you wish.
Just put it in my hand if you want to. You can just stick it right.
You can just drink it. Okay, you can just go like this too. It's up to you.
I like it creates quite an international dish though there with bringing the mint in. Obviously, traditionally
it really works well. We were talking with Mark the other day about thinking about the property of mint. It almost reminds me of menthol, right? And Mark, what were you saying the other day about the interaction with wine and menthol?
Well, there's obviously, we always talk about the acid of the wine, and we talk about the alcohol, and we talk about, the other components, but sometimes the menthol brings out some of the florals and the herbaceousness of some of the cab-based wines. And so we were sort of interested in the interaction. I'd be interested to hear what you have to think about that, Patrick.
I definitely agree that they can bring a great comment. All the Bordeaux varieties can have an element of greenness or herbaceousness to or herbal herbalness to the wine, and so they can definitely, I think, complement, particularly lamb and mint. I think I can understand not necessarily having to resort to the jelly, but lamb and mint is a beautiful combo. Whether it's fresh with gremolata, I think is a great idea, or some sort of pesto, or any sort of even just fresh, mint and olive oil or something. It just, I think the lamb, it just complements it so well. And so, but does have a full flavor. Lamb, of course, is very, rich flavor. So I do think having a wine that can stand up to that is helpful. And so having a little bit more opulence to the wine, and or layers to, I think, will help to bring out this full experience that the food's going to bring it. So you need the wine to stand up to it too. And so in 13.
Absolutely. The other day I tried this wine with this lamb, and it was again a great combo. This lamb is from New Zealand. It's grass-fed. It's extremely moist and very, very tender. And this wine had just the right amount of, I would say, I don't want to say maybe spice. I don't know what it is that I'm getting there, but it just balances the sweetness of the lamb, and then the freshness of the mint really did its little number there at the end. It was really wonderful.
And Emily's still waiting there with her fork.
If I lean in,
I stand around with a fork in my pocket.
if we lean in really close, Steve, you can smell it. You just got to get really close into it. That's right.
No, this is an absolutely beautiful dish that Chef does, and since I'm standing here, I'll just try it.
So,
That rice is so good too.
and so Chef, I noticed you cut those, is that 4 chops and you cut it into 2 pairs?
I'm sorry?
Is that 4 chops right there? And you cut it into
It's
2 pairs?
basically 1, 2, 5 bones.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so you cut it like that instead of doing lollipops?
I'm sorry?
You cut it in a 3 and a 2 instead of doing a lot like singular.
Yeah, because and I'll tell you why. I think when you cut meat in too many little pieces, the meat goes cold. Most places where you go eat, there's always air conditioner and things like that. And I want the meat to retain its heat as the diner is enjoying its dinner. So I don't want their dinner by the time a minute or 2 goes by and they talk to their friends and take a picture and get on the internet, and then their food goes cold. And I'm like, hey, my food is cold. What's going on?
That's experience right
So,
there.
you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm talking about. So,
Oh yeah. Sit on that Food Network.
exactly. That's right. Yeah. So yeah, I think I like to keep the meat just simply in a larger piece of meat, so that way it retains its heat as well.
That's a nice tip.
That's a great tip. I totally would have done lollipops.
We're going to go ahead and cut these
Try it out or something.
individual pieces because we're going to eat them right away.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and start plating our last dish, the steak tartine. Okay. So
Okay.
basically, what we're gonna do here is just slice the beef.
I'm gonna move on to the Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon, which Patrick and I shared a bottle earlier, so I got the takeaway, and so I'm gonna try the cab here while you guys are.
Cheers, Esteban.
Cheers, brother, and
Salud.
cheers to everybody out there.
Salud.
All of our fun folks. I think this is so
Rodrigo.
cool getting all these comments in of folks that are cooking along. So there must have been some meal kits going out there, and while just filling in a little time while he's plating this up, Mutiny also started a Sunday brunch. This past Sunday was their inaugural Sunday. They're open for limited occupancy, but they're going. We'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit. And then Patrick, there's a question here from Irene Evans. Can you talk about the crucible a little bit more about the grapes, the area, the soils, the weather, etc.?
Yeah, so the crucible, this is the 2014 crucible we're talking about in this case. As Esteban corrected me, the 2013 was almost all Merlot. This is about half Merlot, about 48% Merlot, 48% Malbec, actually. Both grown very closely on the east side of Napa. Napa in general is, in that area is probably only 3 or 4 miles wide. It's not a very wide area at that particular spot, particularly. This is, mid to southern portion of Napa on the east side. So there's 2 ridges that run. So Napa and Sonoma are east and west of each other. On the west side, between Napa and Sonoma is the Mayacamas. Between Napa and east of that is what's called the Vaca Range. These grapes are closer to the Vaca Range, or in the more volcanic in activity. That's where it formed those hills there. So the soils are more volcanic in general. They provide for excellent drainage and structure, so you get a lot of structure on the wines. The Malbec's actually from right at the base of where the hills are, so you get the valley floor, lushness, the opulence on the wine is Malbec. The earthiness and the spice too is Malbec. The earthiness and texture throughout is the Merlot. It has a little bit. Steve, do you remember the rest has a little PV probably in Cab Franc?
I think it's actually. It's either all Cab Franc or all PV. Unfortunately, I don't. I'll look it up while maybe we flip to Chef about the plating of what's going on. Oh, did we lose our camera over there, Emily?
We had some. All right, we're back.
We've got some cord taped to the floor, which we tripped over.
All right, guys. So I want to go over real quick, kind of what I was just doing, what you guys were chatting a little bit there. So basically, what we're building this 13 is we started with our focaccia toasted. Remember, we put it for like a couple minutes on the oven, and then we put the onion jam. We spread it, right? Then the steak cut it thinly. Then we put the pistachio pico de gallo. Then we put the pistachios by themselves. That's a cool trick. You don't want to mix the pistachios too far along in advance so they don't get soggy. So you want to have a nice crunch when you're biting into it, right? And then we're going to finish with our watercress leaves right here. And this is going to have a nice peppery notes. Okay? On this moment, I would like to take a moment to express my thanks to Chef Ari Weisweiser, with whom I've collaborated in this menu. We actually collaborated on this dish together because we wanted to have something like a nice bite of a steak, but nothing super large. But so this came out like really nice. So the collaboration with him was very, very fruitful, and I'm very thankful to everything he's done for us from the beginning. Really, he's been there for us. So.
And he's located in Sonoma, yes?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so that's the Glen Ellen Star restaurant in is it Kenwood? Is that where it is exactly? Or that makes even more sense. The Kenwood Star is coming to a theater near you soon. Sure.
All right, guys. So the way we finish this, I just put a little olive oil on my spoon here. Spoon it around. This is the little chefy moment, okay? Okay. So this is where you can be your own little chef, right? Little Remy. Touch of black pepper.
And that's gluten-free focaccia, is that right, Chef?
Definitely not, sir. Definitely not.
Definitely. Gluten-free.
No, definitely not.
Free equals flavor free.
Yeah. I mean, this whole issue with gluten, it really came out of the issue of mass production of bread, where bread became something that was mixed that day, baked that day, extra bleach flours, very low quality ingredients. When you're talking about a crafted bread by hand with really high quality flours, with long fermentation times, then we never had this issue before until this commercially made breads came about. So please go back to your kitchens and find a wonderful recipe, and bake wonderful breads. Believe in fermentation. It's where flavors and things happen. Okay.
After that, you bring a glass of wine.
Speaking of which, yeah, there you are. Yeah.
This is the
right.
Foundry Cabernet Sauvignon that we are. There it is.
Here's the
Look at that.
steak. Okay.
Beautiful. So the last note on the Crucible before we get into the cab real quick, and we'll just finish this up quickly for folks, but it was 4% Cabernet Sauvignon. So 48 Malbec, 48 Merlot, and 4% Cabernet Sauvignon.
It was obvious. Everyone could taste the 4% cab. It was pretty clear that was the answer. I mean,
I did. Certainly did.
I tasted 3%. I don't know about you.
On the Napa cab, Patrick, in a minute or less, because I don't want to keep people too late, and we have a few more things here. But what do you got on the Napa cab?
Yeah, the Napa cab is ready to go. This I think is going to be a great combo for the amazing Wagyu tartine. It's fantastic. That looks so beautiful, and I love the simple prep again, and not trying to. It's just working with what the beauty you already have. So the Cabernet, we work with 10 different vineyards up and down Napa. We get to kind of choose pick and choose from a number of them for our own enjoyment as well. And so we've done that. In this case, 2014, has been now several years in the bottle as well. One of the quick things that we don't talk too much about is when you pair wines, or with the style of wine, and the age of the wine that would pair with certain dishes. So a younger wine might want this sort of pairing, whereas a wine that's been bottle aged, you might need this sort of thing. So I think what the chefs prepared, man, I'm drooling at this point, I think. And so it could be the amount of wine that I drank, or could be that I really want all those dishes, perhaps. I think that's the.
Why not? Why not? We're right here waiting for you guys.
So, Chef, at Mutiny, is that a more of like a small plate kind of serving, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the kind of experience we want to give our guests is that you can try different wines with different dishes without getting so full with just one of them. So it's not quite a tapas concept, right? It's slightly little bit bigger that you can share, with your friends and family, but still get 2-3 great bites, I mean, if you think about the concept of having too many bites of something, eventually you just lose interest.
Right.
So we keep it simple and fresh, and then we can move on. Hey, let's try another wine. Let's try another dish. That's kind of like the idea.
So if I were making that at home, I could go ahead and do the same preparation. I could put a veg or cauliflower mash or
Exactly.
a bit of starch on the side.
Absolutely.
And turn it into a full entree, right?
Yeah, totally.
Awesome.
Totally. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
But as Chef said, our whole concept is the wine tasting experience. So we want everybody to be able to taste different wines with different plates, and so we try to keep things smaller. And we aren't center of the plate, big old steakhouse, which are fantastic in Houston. And if you want a big old steak, you should come here and try one. But what we're trying to do is a little different, and I think it's working. I think people enjoy it.
Absolutely.
And it's
Absolutely.
fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, things have been going great there for you guys, and I know that there's been a lot of notoriety, and I see that we have some media folks here based out of Houston on the call here today. Why don't you guys go ahead and dig in so you can give us a minute or two of the kind of how the wine plays with the food.
Absolutely, yes.
And while you guys are finding a knife, I'll begin
I'm probably finding a knife, trust me.
So a couple little kind of housekeeping things here. First of all, for anybody that's new here, Patrick, Chef, Emily, Mark, and I will stay on for a few minutes after we kind of end the show, and happy to answer any questions. If there's anything that maybe you didn't want to come straight out and ask with a lot of people on the call, or you want to do it anonymously, feel free to stay on. A couple things. So Mutiny Wine Room, you can go to mutinywineroom.com and check them out. If you're local in Houston, they're in the Houston Heights neighborhood. Fantastic place. We mentioned a few times earlier, we were supposed to be out there to do a winery showcase dinner tonight, actually, and would have been.
We'll come back, right?
Oh yes, we're coming back.
All right,
man.
Counting on that.
Once the occupancy can be at 100%, because Patrick has so many fans.
Okay.
Literally, the fans everywhere like this.
Why don't we try this steak?
Okay, please do.
No, let's do. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, I can't wait to have a bite of that.
Oh, this is mine?
It's actually like torture.
Yeah,
Well,
put that
we
in half,
share.
please.
This is the problem when we moved it from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock Pacific time, is that now it's so much closer to dinner.
You're like, oh my gosh, really?
It's nearly 9 o'clock here, and this is our dinner. So,
There you
trying to get us to stop eating is
Not happening.
fruitless.
No.
Well, thank you for eating dinner in front of all of us.
It's the impact of our chef from Santiago. It's like, the further south you go, the later that you eat. So
Absolutely.
now we're all eating at 10:30 at night. So.
The more meals you eat too.
And so Mark and Emily are the chefs at their house because Mutiny is open for service. And so they moved this presentation to the house. So thank you guys for opening your home and kitchen to do that.
Right, so I wanted to say something real quick. So when I tried this Cabernet the other day, I told Mark, you know, being a Chilean, we always expect Cabernets to be very oaky, very big. And my first sip, I was like, man, this was a little lighter for a Cab. But then when I started eating the steak with it and all the elements, and this wine started growing on my palate. It was very, very interesting how it did that. Just because, you know, I'm so used to that, you know, that big oak thing going on. And this was just very wonderful that it took a little time to get there. I like that, the process of flavor development and aroma development. So it was really, really wonderful to discover that. Thank you for
Hello, Chef. Thanks.
Patrick, this is beautiful wine. Absolutely.
Cheers. I'm sure that I'd be, as I am now, I'd be drooling there too, as I'm drooling here, going, man, I wish.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm just glad we've got an excuse to get you back down here, you know?
I'm sorry, my Mark is signaling here.
That's more for me.
Got it for you? Okay. You know, I think we're gonna go on the cutting board, man. This reached that level of informality now, so we just gotta go for it.
Don't worry.
All right, while you're cutting that, Chef, I'm going to go ahead and close this out, and then we'll stay on for a few minutes for anybody that wants to join us. Just a couple more housekeeping things here. Mutiny Wine Room in Houston. Obviously, you see the food and the concept of kind of smaller plates. Try it with different wines. Really experience things. Have a great experience. I can say firsthand that they source some of the absolute best wines from California for sure.
Absolute best.
And I'm not biased at all because they carry both the Anarchist and Foundry wines there.
Quick
They
plug.
also have a lot of other fantastic smaller brands. Yes.
Hashtag Kagan Cellars. Little plug real quick.
And Kagan Cellars is a big one. There's Osterman Family Wines is a big one. There's
Toma Cellars.
Yeah, there's a lot of them there. You really can't go wrong. Mark and Emily have really kind of made it their second career to explore dynamite, just over delivering fantastic quality wines, and they brought them to Houston. So we're happy to be a part of it, and thank you guys so much for doing this with us this evening.
Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for that, Steve. Appreciate it.
We appreciate your thinking about us tonight, and we hope everybody had a great time, because we certainly did.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
right.
And the
Here, man.
Cheers, guys.
last cheers to all of you. So for those of you tuning in 2 weeks from tonight, we will continue our Anarchist Wine Co. webinar series called Inquisitive Sips. 2 weeks from now, it will be a pairing with Cowgirl Creamery. For those of you that maybe are in Houston, perhaps you know of it. I don't know how far out it goes because Cowgirl Creamery is a big cheese producer here in Marin County in Northern California. But it's going to be a really fun one, I think, where we decided to pair 3 wines with that. That'll be up. You will all get notification of that in your email, along with the recording of this, or a link to the recording of this, so that you can revisit and cook and learn everything the chef went through in this series. And the recipes will be in there again for those of you that were not registered by this time yesterday. Other than that, you can check out the wines anytime at anarchistwineco.com. You can see both of our brands on there, Anarchist Wine Co. and Foundry Wines. You can find out information about our wine club. And other than that, thank you guys very much. It's been a pleasure. Happy Wednesday.
Cheers. Thank you.
Stay safe, stay well, stay healthy.
Cheers, guys.
Chef, you were awesome. I cannot wait to try out some of these new tips. Thank you so much. Cheers, everybody.
I'll see you, Chef.